Welcome back. Today we're going to study the Adelita by Francisco Tárrega, a mazurka written by a Spanish composer. But we will learn a mazurka is actually a Polish dance. The mazurka is a Polish dance that originated around the Warsaw. In the 16th century, mazurka, like dances, appear in lute music. By the mid-18th century, about 1752, mazurka as a dance appears in a German publication. And by the end of the 18th century, about 1797, Jan Dąbrowski coins a song for the troops, and it's a mazurka. Later in the 1840s, the mazurka is a popular dance in the salons, and still later, it becomes a song of Polish solidarity against Germans and Russian oppressors. So how does this relate to Francisco Tárrega? Tárrega began his career studying not just guitar but piano, and he was a fan of Chopin's music. And so he wrote a number of mazurkas. Maybe you might say he wrote a number of mazurkas in the Spanish style. So at the beginning of the mini-study, I played the first section of Adelita. You may have noticed that the tempo was not slow, because a mazurka is not a polonaise. A polonaise is more stately. A mazurka was a little bit quicker, kind of a medium tempo. And so we have that characteristic of the dance. Also, oftentimes it can be a dotted rhythm, a strong accent on beat 2, and in Tárrega's mazurka, Adelita, we have also some characteristic glissandi that occur at high points in the piece. So let's take a look at the beginning part of the piece and do a little bit of an analysis and glean what we can from what the music says of how better to interpret and to perform this wonderful masterpiece. Taking a look at our mazurka, you notice in the very beginning the meter is 3/4 time, and the key signature shows 1 sharp, which is E minor. In a piece like this, which are 2 sections, that there will be a sense of contrast. We will notice the sense of contrast will be highlighted by the fact that the A section is in E minor, and the B section is E major, and then it comes back to E minor. So the piece is in ternary form, A, B, A. Let's examine the melody. It begins with 2 8 notes and a half note in measure 1 and measure 2. And the accent is not on beat 1, but on beat 2. Now, frequently with guitars, we play the piece with the chord, and the chord sometimes is played so loud on beat 3 in the first 2 bars that it ends up sounding like. But that's not the melody. The melody is what we first started. So it's really important that you play the chord quietly. It's there, but it's not a part of the melody. Okay, having clarified that part, let's take a look at measure 4. Measure 4, where the phrase ends, there is immediately a transitional part. Again, think of this as a dance. So this is all part of that dance movement. Okay, from the beginning, just the melody with light chords in the background. Another component to examine in the A section of Adelita is the dynamics. It begins piano at the end of the first phrase, and the transitional melody, or harmony, if you look at it, it's actually an E minor chord. It crescendos, and we hear louder. Then the next phrase is marked piano. And then, and we have a gliss. Kind of a sigh. Kind of almost, if we make it Americanized, we'd say it's almost got a bluesy sound to it. Take note and play through that first section again. Now we'll turn our attention to the B section. Let's focus first on the melody and the first 4 bars, the next phrase. In this particular part, again, you notice that there's a gliss, that's to emphasize it, and I would suggest that when we see this occur, it usually means that the composer actually will also like that top note to be held a little bit longer, caressed. So if we do this part which has the high E to be held a little bit longer. The little grace notes are to sweeten the statement and display a little bit of emotion. Harmonically, we hear in this B section. Just for the first bars. I just pause here a moment to tell you what we're doing is we're examining the parts of the piece. Even playing straight through it, we've heard this piece so many times. It's very easy for us to just simply repeat what we think the song's about, as opposed to trying to examine the piece fresh, anew. And so that's what we're trying to do here. And one element of that is examining the parts of the piece. Melody by itself, what's the harmony doing, and how does this all work together? In interpreting a piece of music, you want to know a little bit about the piece, about the composer, and in particular, you want to look for the evidence in the music itself to how to play it. Okay, having said all that, if we put these 2 parts together for the first 4 bars of the B section, we have something that sounds like this. Then what follows is Tarrega bringing us back down an octave and changing the timbre. And it's now to be soft. And on this note, so the high point, of course, is the G sharp up here. And there's maybe a reason to give a little bit of more time on that note. And then of course he is marked in on the chord that follows a little fermata, which means to hold it a little bit longer. And then he gives us a very characteristic part of the mazurka rhythm, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum. But to me, the beginning section of this piece sounds like wishful thinking. Wishful thinking. Compare that to the second part of the piece. It's in E major. In conclusion, each of the sections, the A section and the B section, is repeated. And for the sake of brevity, I did not repeat those sections in terms of our analysis and so forth. But it is a challenge for us when we repeat a section to convey a different viewpoint. Remember that the storyteller is the melody. And we are now with a different viewpoint in terms of our camera angle. If we listen to that melody again, can we change it in a subtle way that will provide a different perspective? I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to seeing you soon.